Welcome to Esoteric Truth on freedomslips.com on Revolution Radio. And I am your host, Trinity, and I'm so happy that you're here. First, let's be sure to remind our listeners that this is a member supported radio station. And here are a few ways that we all win. One, you can easily go to the support us tab on freedomslips.com and find dozens of ridiculously low prices on things that every prepper needs. But you can also find cups, stickers, and mouse pads. But if that's not your thing, you're in luck. You can also have a banner for your business to show right here on Revolution Radio. And you can simply cannot beat that. Also, if you would like to keep up with me and my guests and future projects, feel free to go to Esoteric Truth Radio on Facebook and click the subscribe like button. You can also leave me a message if you would like to be a guest or want to tackle a particular subject. Get in contact with me on Facebook or esoterictruthradio.com. And of course, esoterictruthradio@yahoo.com. I check my messages daily. Now, on to the topic at hand. This is a subject that many fear to tread. It can easily be seen, researched by folks, and cannot be denied with the overwhelming evidence that our skies are not how they used to be. But who's to say that it's always been like this? Well, the facts, for starters. Since early civilization, control of the weather was man's number one need. From rain dancing to alchemy, there were even mobile humidity trucks. And that was trucks that drove around with trees on top of them to be set down to help with rain. And weather balloons, of course. That they were set to have certain amounts of gases inside that were to explode or to be shot while in the air. We have always looked for a way to control the skies. And whoever controls the skies can control the food, residential areas, countries, and continents. Keep in mind, those places that are in desperate need of water, why would we not be seeding there? Yet, for the first time in hundreds, yes, hundreds, maybe even thousands of years, we are now seeing that this may no longer be a need to control corn or wheat or rain for places with drought. We are now seeing a very possible situation where the clouds and skies may be used to harm people and control the masses, with the very clear evidence that with the situations around the world and the fact that we now know that Mother Nature is not a game to be played, we as a society have a real chance at getting to see and hear those who are looking to the skies for some real answers. And that, of course, leads me to my guest tonight, Sharon Daphna, and her website is Chembo, CHEMBOW.com. And I would love for her to tell our listeners tonight more about herself and the wonderful work that she's doing. Welcome, Sharon, and thank you so much for being here on Esoteric Truth Radio.
Thank you so much, Trinity. I'm really excited to be here.
Well,
my
tell us
website, by
about
the way,
you.
is thechembo.com. I have the website, thechembo.com, yes. And on this site, I have all kinds of information. You can learn all about geoengineering, electromagnetic pollution, and how we solve these problems using orgone energy. So we're coming at this new topic of chemtrails. And in the years that I've been looking at this, I have stumbled upon the solution to it. So we have a lot to talk about tonight.
Oh, we absolutely do. Tell us more about yourself and how you actually got into this.
Well, I first became interested because I was sick and I didn't know why. And I had had somebody tell me offhand one day, hey, they're spraying chemtrails. And this was maybe around 2010. And I had no idea what he was talking about. So I haven't known about this for that long. That was the first time I'd heard of it. And then in 2011, Gabriel, who is my life partner, told me about chemtrails. And I started to connect the dots because I'd go out jogging and come back feeling horrible and not really know why. Because here I was taking care of myself, being in the outdoors, exercising. I was eating pretty well. I mean, I know a lot more about food now than I did then, but still I was doing the best I could. But I felt sick all the time. I felt exhausted. I had allergies I couldn't explain that just started out of nowhere. So I started to kind of connect it. Gabe said, hey, look, they're spraying. You're not feeling well. Look at the sky. And I looked up there and there was crisscrossing trails everywhere. And I had just done a strenuous run. And I thought, I think there's something to this. This stuff's got to be falling. And that's actually how I got my start, was through health concerns.
Right. And a lot of people are not, I think before we actually get into the real deep stuff, the biggest thing that I see right now, or the biggest debate, is just trying to understand the difference between a contrail and a chemtrail. Even though we see the zigzags, we can see the patterns. This is not, that you need special X-ray specs to see these things. They're blatant and in your face. During your research, what did you find was actually different? If you have a conversation with somebody who's considered a newbie in this, how would you explain to them the clear difference?
Well, it's good to start here because when I was first told about chemtrails, I said to the person who told me, "Isn't that just what planes do?" So I thought it was just normal. So this is a good place to start. A contrail is a condensation trail that is a normal part of air travel, although nowadays, because of the high bypass turbo engines, you really won't see contrails very much anymore. But nonetheless, throughout history, a small, short trail was normal behind planes flying at above 30,000 feet because the condensation would freeze like your breath on a cold day. So, this is the similar thing as when you see the exhaust from cars. So, that would be a short trail that would dissipate because obviously an ice crystal isn't going to just stick there forever if it's just water vapor. But a chemtrail is a trail of nanoparticulate heavy metals and it stays, it lingers in the sky and it can go horizon to horizon. Like skywriting, when you see skywriting, this is material put into the sky. It's meant to stick for a while. The same with chemtrails, which are used in weather modification.
Right. Due to being as lucky as I am to be able to have you as a guest, it forced me to literally go and try to find out as much information as I could. So it actually took me a lot further back. As I said, kind of in the beginning, you can go hundreds of years, and we've always been trying to have some form of control. But it's not until, I guess, more recently, uh, that the discussion, or at least the debate concerning the plane and a plane that's actually trying to pollute the sky or seed it, is not new at all, and we've been doing it since the 40s. So I'm gonna write down the name of the videos that I have. One is called The Rainmaker, and that was in 1968. The other one is Know Your Clouds, and that is a U.S. Army aviation training film from 1966. And there's even a cloud seeding excerpt in 1947 by GE, explaining how they've been doing this. Um, if they're trying to make it sound like they're just seeding it in order to control weather, if we look back at the wars that we've been participating in for a very long time, we were intentionally uh, putting chemicals and spraying it over people for many years. For decades, we were doing that. And now we're seeing diseases popping up out of everywhere. We blame it on the lack of vaccines. We blame it on McDonald's. We blame it on all of these things. Um, is there any definitive way to kind of say, okay, these dots really do connect?
Well, they do connect. It's not just the spraying that is causing these problems, but what's involved in weather modification involves nanoparticulate heavy metals, but it also is energetic. So the combination of the two work together. So many of the illnesses we're seeing are caused by heavy metal exposure, but electromagnetic radiation used on the particles in order to change jet streams and alter weather are also affecting us. So this is a very all-encompassing weather war and etheric energetic war on humanity. So what you're talking about in the 1940s, it's absolutely true. We've been seeding the clouds for a long time. Most people have heard of cloud seeding, silver iodide, which was used to create rain very ineffectively, by the way. We now have knowledge of ways to create rain using no particulates at all, only energy. So we can get into that as the show progresses. But for now, the weather modification that we know of chemtrail spraying has been going on since the end of World War II. However, there's a lot more to it than that. From before then, there's a lot that's been altering the weather on this planet for eons.
Right. I bumped into a something I had never heard of before, but it's called the Royal Rainmaking Project. And apparently, this was done in Thailand. And the king at that time, his name is very difficult for me to pronounce, but HMK is his initials. His weather modification is called by the Royal Rainmaking Technology. The patent is US 20050056705A1. And the abstract is the process of rainmaking and moving clouds using this technology is described for weather modifications by means of chemical seeding, um, steps of triggering to activate cloud formation, fattening to promote cloud growth, moving to move cloud to a designated area, and attacking to initiate rainfall from clouds. And it kind of explains this whole process. Now, it was first tried and used July 19th and 20th of 1969. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
I'll have to look that one up because I haven't heard of it, but it's very interesting. And I'm curious what his technique was. Was he using metals sprayed into the sky or was he using energy? Do you know?
Okay. Hold on one second. Okay, it says attacking can be done by at least three different techniques: by sandwich seeding technique for warm cloud, by glaciogenic seeding techniques for cool cloud, or by super sandwich seeding technique for mixed phase clouds. It's really, really long. But it explains, that's why I'm going to put the actual patent number into the chat room so people can check it for themselves. But now
Yeah,
what's
that's cool. I
really,
think it's
really
very interesting.
yeah, no one here's the really, really interesting. Now this was made by a man who became king and he wanted to help his people. He noticed that there were droughts. He went on a tour, the whole thing. Him and his entire scientific department back then decided that they were going to come up with this plan. It worked. They patented it. Now, when I kept looking, it says now since 1969, they have been paying the fees. Now, until June the 30th of 2014, they stopped. There was all of a sudden lapse in payment and fees for the patent. And it's been kind of lying dormant until you look up the European patent of 1491088B1. I do not know, and I did try to find out why all of a sudden, after all of these years, they no longer control the patent. But now the patent's been given to Europe, and they've had it for quite a while now.
Oh, they gave it to the European Union?
Oh, they didn't give it to them. No, I don't think they gave it to them. What I'm saying is that they've been paying it for this whole time, and all of a sudden, their technology was able to just change hands. In 2014, now
Oh.
1969 until 2014, they were able to pay. All of a sudden, they're falling back on fees they've been paying for 30 years.
Well, it's interesting. That's very interesting. As far as using weather modification to seed clouds, it's actually a rather heavy-handed approach. And there are companies that use negative ionization technology that can create rainfall and cloud formation without any chemicals. And that is very similar to the work that we're doing with orgone. So there's a couple of companies, Earthwise and Ionogenics are two that I know of that have been working with negative ionization technology for a long time, well over a decade. And what it does is when you're putting negative ions into the atmosphere, which is what we like in our homes, like we buy Himalayan salt lamps and negative ionizers, it makes us healthier, but it also is very healthy for the atmosphere. So negative ions create the state where the hydrogen bond can form and we'll have clouds and rain. Whereas the weather warfare, HARP, cell phone towers, smart meters, and all of our wireless devices which emit electromagnetic radiation, they positively ionize the atmosphere. So you have the opposite effect of drought and clouds just falling apart. So when you understand the energetics of weather modification, it not only becomes easier to create rain, it becomes easier to end and nullify the geoengineering that's going on.
Right. Yeah, the Rainmaker documentary that I saw, they were pretty much explaining how just the basics, how the water works, how the condensation works, the things that they have to do in order to cause this, how they've been trying to control it, the clouds going into a certain area. They just want to make sure the one thing that they're claiming they just can't seem to get right is to control it in one particular area. So
I
they're
see.
saying we
That
do
is
it.
difficult.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm
That
sorry.
is difficult for us too. When we do the work we do, which is modeled after Wilhelm Reich's work, who discovered orgone energy, which is the life energy, which is the what is necessary in order to have rain and thriving plant life and thriving human life. When we're working with this energy to create rain, we often find that we don't get rain where we are, but literally everywhere around us will have rain, which is the same thing he found. So it is still hard to control where the rain's going to happen.
Right. Well, I no matter how many times I look into things, it seems to go into 25 different scenarios when you discuss chemtrails, right? So some people will say it's to
Yes.
hide something. Some people will say it's to dumb us down. Um,
Yep.
some people think that the stuff that we eat and the stuff that we drink added with this is, a mass hypnosis cocktail to get
Yep.
us just all nuts at the exact same time. During the
Yeah, they're all
research,
correct.
yeah, okay, that's what I'm saying.
They're
Tell
all
us about
right.
that. Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, which part of it? I mean,
So,
this is all over the place. Where do you want to start?
start wherever you want because I know that in some, I want to be able to cover everybody's different aspects on this one because everybody has, one particular road that they take concerning the reason why they're doing this in the first place.
Okay, well, we'll start with the heavy metals because that's the first thing that I learned about. That's the first thing that I noticed. These spraying of tiny, tiny heavy metal nanoparticulates, so tiny you could line up 60 of them and they'd be the size of a red blood cell. Obviously, the inhalation of these metals, aluminum, barium, and strontium, amongst others, is going to cause health problems. You're going to see increasing rates of Alzheimer's disease and autism. Any neurological ailment that's caused by heavy metal poisoning, you're going to see respiratory problems like asthma, which is on the rise. That's what this causes. So we're talking about heavy metal poisoning. Now, of course, I like to be solution oriented, but we'll get to that later. We do have a way to get this out of the atmosphere and we do have a way to be healthy. But as it is, that is part of the agenda is to harm us, make our lives shorter. It's depopulation, it's eugenics, and it's also an agenda that will alter the soil. It'll acidify it with aluminum and make it very hard to grow food. So we're talking about control of weather for the control of food production, to reduce the amount of rainfall and water we have, and to make us sick. It's all, working together to harm us. So that's the first step is the heavy metals, but it goes way beyond that.
Right. Okay. Well, then let's go to the next step. If they were actually hiding something, um,
Hmm.
obviously we can tell, and mind you, I know that when I was a kid, I'm 41. I know when I was a kid, I don't really remember paying too much attention on how blue the sky was, but I find it really weird that people say, I remember. Could it be possible that we really are not remembering exactly? They're just doing it more than they might have been doing it before.
Yes, thank you for that observation. I have heard so many people say it used to be this way and it used to be blue and there used to be puffy clouds. Well, I thought so too. Well, guess what? I didn't pay as much attention as I thought back then either. And this has been going on for a long time. I saw photos from my own life. Okay, a picture of myself as a toddler in 1978. And guess what I saw in the sky behind me? Chemtrails. And I remember
Oh,
my mom telling me, seriously, in
wow.
like around 1981 when well, I'm the same age as you, I'm 40.
Mhm.
So around 1981, I remember my mom saying, "That's a skywriter." She pointed at the chemtrail sprayer,
Right.
just making a long line across the sky. So I actually do remember chemtrails back then, but I thought it was something else. I didn't know what it was. So yes, you're right. We don't remember. I just watched one of my favorite movies, Falling Down,
Mhm.
and with Michael Douglas. You know that
Yes.
one? He goes
Yes, I
completely
do.
berserk and starts shooting everybody. Okay,
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite movies. It's so LA, and I'm from LA, so I love it. It's my experience of LA is what he went through. I'm like, I could see that happening to anybody there. Anyway, tons of chemtrails, tons of geoengineered clouds in the sky. I saw all of the evidence of weather warfare in that film. I just watched it a few nights ago, and I was like, wow, look at that. You could see it over the ocean. You could see that heavy layer of deadly orgone radiation. We used to call it smog. It's deadly orgone radiation, which I'll also get into when we get to the discussion on orgone. So yeah, this has been going on forever. So maybe they think they remember it, but we got to look back. I have seen so many movies where I've seen chemtrails now. I'm shocked. Cool Hand Luke, that's 1968, chemtrails. I've seen even films from the 40s with chemtrails.
Yeah, I
So I
always
think
thought that was
our
really
our
weird.
memories need work.
Yeah, that's what I thought because I was like, okay, um, I what was I supposed to remember? The sky wasn't a big deal. It was either day or it was night, but I wasn't really concerned about zigzags or lines in the air. And even if I was a kid, I'd just be like, wow, that's really awesome. How they're playing tic tac
You
toe
know,
in the sky. You
well,
know.
we ignore it, and I can tell you it's easy to overlook because I sometimes make a painting based on a photograph, and I made this painting of an industrial building in 2005, this building on the Oregon coast, and I didn't have any chemtrails in the painting. It was all blue sky. Then I looked back at the photo later, much later, like maybe a couple of years ago, and there were three chemtrails in it, and I didn't even bother to paint them. I didn't even notice them. So it does show you how the mind can overlook things.
Right. Well, not only that, it's something that the media perpetrates because if it would have been in movies way back then, it would be something we were already familiar with. I think that the reason why people are up in arms, not just from the health and the basic. When I was maybe in the fifth grade, my teacher had said to take like a piece of cardboard and put Vaseline on it and then put it outside the window and close the window shut, just so you can see all the crap that falls down on top of it. And that I remembered that,
Yeah,
when I found out about chemtrails later, I was like, man, imagine what I could have found. I wouldn't have known the difference. I was
right.
just looking at stuff that would be falling. But it never dawned on me um,
Yeah.
that people have been telling us this is not something. I know in video games that's a big thing now. In every video game that you see, uh, all of them have chemtrails in it. All of them. Doesn't matter which one you pick, every single one of them. And that's to get our kids used to the same thing, the same way that we probably got fooled when we were younger. We are now making this a regular, nonchalant thing for the future generations.
Yeah, I mean, there is definitely an agenda to normalize it. I don't get too caught up on that, but that's definitely there. But yeah, the discussion of brainwashing in the media, I could go off on that for another 2 hours. But that's definitely there.
Yes, yes. But I see it now more and more and more and more. And I'm saying, okay, now who is this supposed to fool? So now we have the older generation who's saying, I remember what the sky looked like, and nobody's getting to the truth. And then we have the younger generation that doesn't care or doesn't really see the big deal. So we have a lot of work
Yeah,
to
I
do.
mean, the younger generation, they want them looking at that screen, and not just the younger ones, but all of us. They want us looking at those screens. They want us walking around with our heads down in the iPhones and completely oblivious to what's going on around us. And again, the iPhone, that's a whole other issue. That's part of it. So besides that, we're looking down all the time, we're being blasted with mind controlling EMF from that device. So it's not just about distracting us with imagery and training us to accept these pictures, but they're blasting us with mind controlling frequencies. So that all works hand in hand.
Right. We have that. We have the Gwen Towers. We have HARP. And amazingly, no matter how many times I bring up HARP, people think there's only one. There's a
There's
lot of
like,
places.
there, yeah,
They're
like
all over the
52
world.
of them.
Yeah, they're all
Yeah.
over the world, everywhere. And we
Well,
focus
we,
on
we
one.
talk about HARP a lot. Yeah, we focus on HARP and we talk about HARP technology a lot. But what we need to understand is that in our own communities, the cell phone towers and the smart grid, meaning those smart meters, those digital meters going on in every house, this is a huge part of the control agenda, and it works hand in hand with geoengineering. None of this is separate. All these dots connect. So we may fixate on HARP, and definitely HARP is a dangerous weapon, but we have welcomed these weapons into our own communities through our complacency, through thinking that we need cell phones, that we need Wi-Fi, and oh, that's the electric company just wants to make it easier to read the meter, and they want to make it easy for you to save energy. That is a load of nonsense. this is all part of a control agenda, not just to control our energy usage and to control our homes, but to put surveillance on everyone. And believe it or not, to control the weather. You're going to see storm systems completely circumventing cities because of the positive ionization effect of these cell phone tower arrays and the smart grid, and indeed all of our devices in our homes. It all contributes.
Yeah, I live in Texas now, and I have a smart meter right next to my room. And I had to move my bed because I like it by the window, but the pole's right next to my window, and I would constantly hear this humming, and it wouldn't stop. So I'm
I
looking
hear it all the
around.
time
Yeah,
too.
I'm like, what's the hum? And I'm thinking it's a cricket. I'm like, something's humming, and I can't get it to stop. So I shut
Does it sound like a
everything.
high pitched ringing in your ear?
No, no, it's just like
I hear a hum.
just like that.
Okay.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it was
Yeah.
driving me nuts because I couldn't find out where it was coming from. I shut everything off. I went into my closet, turned off the breaker, and I could hear it. And I went closer to the window, and it was the damn pole. So now I had to take my bed and move it away from the window and put my bed all the way to the other side of the room because the humming was driving me nuts. And I
It
didn't know
drives me
where it was
nuts
coming from.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had our smart meter removed, which I recommend you do too. You can opt out. Every electric company offers an opt out option, although it costs some money for most. In Los Angeles, it's free, which is amazing. There's 4 million residents in LA that can all opt out for free. But here where I moved to, up in the mountains, we had to pay to opt out, but we did it. But guess what? I still heard the noise because the neighbors all have smart meters. So I've received some MP3 files that help to negate that noise. And I need to find out, and I'll let you know, but I need to find out the source because it's useful for everyone. And these MP3s play the sound of rain and a frequency which literally brings your mind to a different frequency where you no longer hear the smart meter sound. And over time, it trains your mind to not hear it at all.
Oh yeah, no,
That's
you're
where I
gonna
want to
have to
get.
send that to me,
I
and
will
I'll
send it to
definitely
you. And
mention
I
it.
also, I need to find the source. I'm going to find out where they came from because it's very useful. I think many people could benefit, but everyone needs to opt out of the smart grid. And I say this with all seriousness because when you tell the utility company, no, restore that analog meter, I don't want that destructive carcinogenic device on my house, you're sending them a message that one, you will not allow surveillance of your energy use on your home. You will not comply with Agenda 21. And two, that you are concerned with your health and you know what these devices do. And let me tell you, by the way, they transmit for 30 miles. They only need to transmit for 1 mile. They're far stronger than they need to be. You can buy a smart meter shield online. They have them on Amazon for 120 bucks or so. You can buy a smart meter shield or make your own, and it will change it so that it only transmits for 1 mile and it will greatly reduce the radiation. But still, I recommend an opt out because of the message it sends.
Right. Yeah, everybody's gonna have to just kind of go for that on their own. What I noticed here when I lived out in Missouri, I lived in an unincorporated area, so it was a very small company. It just did this little portion of town. I didn't have those issues. I had to call in my numbers off the meter outside, um, and then they would just charge me whatever I told them was on the meter. But here, I
That's
started,
nice.
yeah, well, here I started noticing that they gave you certain deals. Um, they would lower it down as long as you opted in for the smart meter.
I
If you
see.
didn't, they would raise the price, trying to make it sound like they have to
Yeah.
pay somebody gas to go over to your house and go read the meter on their own. But
Yeah.
those
They have to pay the guy
deals,
that always used to go there.
yeah. So what they do is they make that deal better, and they try to get you in on a yearly basis. And I didn't really catch that until a couple of months ago, and they were like, it's like 8.9 cents, and then they have like real small smart meter customers only. And I'm like, so if
Yeah.
I don't want it, you guys are going to charge me a ton of extra money.
They
So
do
here they're
charge
doing that.
extra, but
Oh, yes.
well, yeah. God forbid they should hire somebody or keep the guy hired that used to read the meters, right?
Yes.
It's not actually about that, though. It's really not about that. It goes way beyond that. This whole thing, and I mean, I could talk about this for hours too. The smart meter agenda goes back to UN Agenda 21, which is a control agenda under the guise of environmentalism. It's false environmentalism. They take issues that we're concerned with and make up a few too, like global warming. And they say we're the cause of all the world's problems. And They need to control us. They need to control our energy usage because we can't govern ourselves. So it's a communitarian agenda which takes away power from the individual. It negates individual rights and creates something called community rights because they say you as an individual are using too much energy and you can't govern yourself. So we're going to put this device on your house called a smart meter because one day it will communicate with your smart appliances. And when you're using more energy than the United Nations wants you to use, and you're causing too much global warming, we could shut off your appliances. So that's the ultimate goal. Now, the problem with that is a communitarian agenda saying, oh, we're going to do this for the good of the many as opposed to your individual rights. Well, there are no community rights outlined in the Constitution. It only covers individual rights. So you've got a global organization that's not elected now governing affairs within our small communities in the United States. And that just can't stand.
Right.
Plus, of course, the energy.
Right. And the people, understanding that we live under this whole guise, and it started maybe 30 years ago, where they said, we had to start taking care of the environment because we don't know how to throw out trash and we're completely irresponsible. We don't know how to do anything for ourselves. We blame each other, right? But we don't blame the companies that are actually producing this stuff. Of course, I would love to not have PVC. Where can I buy non-PVC items? It's becoming impossible to avoid whatever chaos they're claiming we're actually doing and then need to be watched because of it.
Well, the chaos is coming mostly from the large corporations who, by the way, control the UN and control our government. So they want everything their way and they want full control. And we see an environmental crisis, which they've caused, and we're told it's us. Now, that doesn't take away our responsibility. We still have a responsibility to use energy wisely. We still should recycle. We should take responsibility for all of these things, but to make it law, that is just taking it too far.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm not talking about the fact that we need to not recycle or what I'm saying is that we need to recycle because they're making items that we need to recycle. So we put them in a lighter blue bag and then we put it out there, still not understanding that trash is going to go to the same place everybody else's trash is going to go to. It's still not going to disappear or disintegrate or turn into something healthy for the planet. They won't tell the obvious corporations that are producing this stuff in mass and giving us no other choice but to consume it and to use it. So we're being held responsible for things we couldn't possibly control. I can't just walk into a place and say, I don't want to buy plastic. I only want glass. You know what I mean?
Well, I suppose when we get off the grid, which is the ultimate goal, is to get off the electric grid, get off the water grid. Well, when your water's coming out of a well in the ground and it has no fluoride and no contaminants, well, then I guess we don't need to buy the bottled water anymore. So ultimately, we need to get back to the earth, back to nature, and back to our roots. We've been taken so far from who we are as humans that no, we don't know anymore how to take care of the earth. We're so removed from it. When we have to live more in harmony with nature, and where I've moved to, we don't even have trash service. We have to take it to the dump. So it makes you so much more conscious of what you use.
Yeah.
You start to think more about the recycling. You start, but we're living in cities and the water is completely polluted. You can't drink it. So you're going to the store and buying bottles of bottled water in plastic, So we just don't have, when we're in cities, we're so removed. And by the way, Agenda 21 wants us all living in cities. They want us off the land.
Yep. I know about the trash issue because where I lived in an unincorporated place, we had no police station, no fire department, no post office. We had nothing like that, no trash removal. We had to burn the trash outside in these giant oil barrels, these empty oil barrels, these drums. Believe me, you do not want to have waste when you have to go outside and burn it. You don't want excess anything because you don't want to burn that stuff. When I first got there, I didn't really know how to do anything like that. And I was burning plastic. And let me tell you, the fumes from that, I don't know how I lived because the fumes that come from burnt plastic, never again. Never again.
Oh, I've smelled the burning garbage. When I lived in Portland, Oregon, they don't require you to have garbage service. It's just something you pay for. And I had some neighbors that just didn't want to pay for it. So they burned everything and it was ungodly.
Yeah, no, I will never go back to that. I will never go back to that. No. Um, but you've mentioned Agenda 21 a couple of times, so maybe just in case there's a couple of people who are not really familiar, um, you want to cover some of that concerning
Sure.
the correlation?
What's very important that we understand Agenda 21, which is a United Nations agenda to inventory and control all life on Earth. The United Nations is corporate. Everything is corporate. Our governments, it's all controlled by corporations. And the goal here is complete domination of all resources, all means of production, and all of us. We're talking about pretty much communism in the most extreme sense. Now, people don't realize it, and they think the United Nations is a benevolent body, but it's not. And Agenda 21 is the agenda for the 21st century, which involves getting people off the land. Because after all, according to the United Nations, we are the source of all the pollution. According to Bill Gates, our breathing alone is causing global warming. We're completely overpopulated, they say. And, maybe we are. Okay, I don't think that we have a shortage of humans on this planet, but are we causing all the harm that they're saying we're causing, especially considering that most of these humans don't even have electricity or cars? So the Agenda 21 is a plan to get humans off the land into cities, into smart growth. So if you've noticed in your town that everything looks the same as in the next town, you've got these new developments going in that are mixed use, sustainable. You've got stores in the bottom story, you've got condos in the top stories, and you've got more and more public transportation going in to your transit villages, which are what cities now are. You could see that there's a homogenization going on here. So there's a reason that all our communities are adopting this. It's because of the local implementation through ICLEI, the International Council on Local Environmental Initiatives. ICLEI is present in almost every town except those ones that kicked ICLEI out. Some smaller communities have done this. And that is the governing body, which is international, which goes into local communities in the United States and around the world and imposes these new regulations. We didn't vote for any of this. We didn't say, let's kick out the mom and pop hardware store and put in smart growth. This comes from the United Nations. So that's an example. The smart meters are part of it. And when you hear about the BLM going in and imposing their will on a farmer and saying that you're killing this tortoise just by being here and having your cows here, this is Agenda 21 coming in. They don't care about the environment. I assure you, all of us care about our environment far more than they do. They care about using our concern for the environment, and they've hijacked the green movement for a communitarian corporate agenda. So that's in a nutshell.
Yes, I have to agree with that. Besides, that whole thing about us being overpopulated, that is so far from the truth. It's ridiculous. There are places on this planet right now, there are countries that are paying their citizens to have children. Nobody's getting married, nobody's having children. There are places in China and in Japan where the consumption on adult diapers is more than children's diapers. No one is
That's true.
overpopulating anything. They show us these pictures in China and they'll just show us a major city where all they have is lights and everybody's sleeping in places the size of closets, and they don't show the outside. The outside is desolate. It's dead. There are no more farmers. There are no more generational families there anymore. There are more arrests by the elderly stealing food, because the young people are no longer living that life. They no longer want to. They just lifted the ban on the, what is it? The two children. That's not
Yes, I think it was one
accidental.
child in China.
Yeah,
Right.
that's not accidental. That's purposeful. And they know that something is going on. So when everybody's like,
Well,
there's a mass agenda, there is, and we've always kind of been in it. They have gotten to, they're getting to that number that they so desperately
this is
want.
a very this is a good way to loop it back to geoengineering, because many people know that the geoengineering is a population control agenda, but there's so much more to it. We're seeing infertility, we're seeing reduced birth rates. This is so true what you're talking about in Japan. So I read an article where it said that the young people in Japan in their 20s and 30s don't even want to have sex anymore. So it's not
Mhm.
just an infertility problem, they have no desire.
None.
And that is the result of the EMF pollution. Electrosmog, electromagnetic pollution, I believe, has a huge part in this. Wilhelm Reich found that he discovered orgone energy, our life force energy. And when this is not healthy in us, when we're bombarded with deadly energies and our own life force is impaired, we're not going to feel a sexual desire. That desire is necessary for our mental health and our spiritual health. It's necessary that we have intimate relationships. So we're seeing the direct results of electromagnetic pollution in the lack of interest in normal human activity. And the infertility is arising. A lot of that has to do with vaccines, I believe, but that is not my area of expertise. But there are many reasons we're also becoming infertile. That I can tell you this: the wireless radiation from a laptop Wi-Fi, it causes fragmentation in sperm cell DNA. And that's just from the Wi-Fi in your laptop. So just imagine what the cell phone towers and the smart meters are doing. So you have the taking away of our natural human drives, and you also have the destruction of our DNA.
Yeah. And people are really not noticing that. And we have this internal fight, and it's because it's just based on what the media is telling us. You brought up a couple of minutes ago how most of the planet don't have TVs or the internet or cell phones. They don't even live in like regular houses. And we sit here and we're thinking that every single person, we live in this bubble, and we just assume that everybody kind of lives like us, even the poorest here in the United States is nowhere in comparison to the third world country. And we
Right.
just have this natural assumption that, people just don't have certain things for certain reasons. And it doesn't make any sense. So we're no longer having children. Um, I'm glad you brought that up, and I can't remember. I think it was like a Vice documentary that brought that up. They no longer want to do anything. They don't want to hold hands. They don't want to date. They don't want to be seen together. The population of women over there actually make a ton of money, and then they go to like these places that they're considered, they're all full of men, but they just sit down and have these conversations. There's no sexual relations going on. They just pay money to have a guy sit there with them after work and have a conversation, and then they go home.
Well,
And
here's a little personal anecdote about that. The Wi-Fi in my bedroom. Okay. I had a Wi-Fi in my bedroom and I was wondering why I was not in the mood. Okay.
right.
I got rid of that thing and everything kind of went back to normal.
Yeah, we really got to start removing these things from our general, especially where let's say it's weird because we're told that Wi-Fi has to be in a certain area, and it's usually like a living room where everybody sits. There's always people in that one particular room. So I always move it somewhere
Right.
else. I never put it where, myself and my children frequent the most. I mean,
Well,
it
the
probably
problem is
sucks a
it's
little more,
still in
but I
the
get it.
house.
Oh, no, of course. But I think it's even worse when we're
Yeah.
all sitting in front of it. Um,
Oh, well, that's true. And
and then
also, if you
it's
put a piece of
transmitting.
orgonite on it,
Mhm.
well, yeah, if you put a piece of orgonite on it, you can make it a little less harmful. You keep it farther away from you, but it's still in your house. So
Right.
I recommend hard wiring. I don't use a Wi-Fi myself.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I know that at this point, when we get into the next hour, I do want to cover the organize. And I wanted to do that. I know I don't want to do that right now, but I definitely want to cover some stuff concerning Wi-Fi and stuff like that. But as far as the overpopulation, what we're contributing to the planet, I'm not personally taking my trash and dumping it in the ocean. Uh, these are things that are out of our control, and instead of us taking the necessary steps to get that particular company or that particular law that gets passed, whether we like it or not, um, the only way that we're truly contributing to Agenda 21, the way we're only contributing to destruction of the planet, is by not telling them no and not saying
You have
we
to,
don't want that.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You have to take a stand. Unfortunately, the only way that we can take a stand against most corporations is by not supporting them financially. And that's happening. Monsanto is losing value on their shares. McDonald's has had to close 700 stores in the last year, so it is working. But with a lot of companies, that's all you can do is just not support them. The, what we're talking about here, I'm really glad that we're going into all these peripheral areas that link back to geoengineering because it's all connected. And we are talking about a massive assault on our planet Earth by what looks like a corporate agenda. I can tell you it goes beyond that. But we're seeing an assault on our planet. This is mostly not us doing this. Mostly humans don't even know it's happening. They're just living their lives and just doing what they're told. And they're polluting, sure, but we are not polluting like these mega corporations and these governments are. We didn't blow up 2,000 nuclear bombs in the South Pacific.
Right. Right.
We are just living our lives, trying to, enjoy our family time, enjoy our friends, be part of a community, and just survive from day to day. So we
Right.
have to look at what is this. There's a terraforming of our Earth, the changing of the atmosphere, the changing of the land, the destruction of the natural beauty of this world, and the destruction of us. Why is it happening? And that's what this work has led me to, more of a deeper understanding of why.
Right. Well, we have a question from the chat room from Zippy751. It says, question for Trinity and guest. Is the geoengineering slash chemtrails connected to the big CGI computer generated image that Carol Rosen told us about, the alien invasion in the sky? Thank you so much for that. I definitely was going to bring that up. So thank you so much for bringing that up. Um, do you want to get into that? I know you said you weren't too familiar.
I don't know about this image. What's the CGI image?
Okay, so Carol Rosen used to work for Von Braun, right? He was part of NASA. And mind you, I don't have anything in front of me right now. This is just based on stuff that I kind of looked through over the years. Uh, but he had made a claim that he had that there was going to eventually be a light show in the sky, and it came in four parts. And one of them was going to be that we were going to start hearing voices or um, commands due to the electronics that were near us. And then we would see a light show in the sky. Now, there's a debate between those two. Some people believe that it's going to be the second coming of Christ. But the hitch on that one is that we would see Christ here. In the Middle East, they would see Muhammad, every single place, but it's all to put us under control. And if it's not going to be a godlike figure, it was going to be a faked alien invasion. So a lot of people think that the seeding that's going on is to cover up or actually make it a hell of a lot easier. Like places like HARP. Let's say HARP, we can see it, we know its antennas. But what if we don't see that it actually has lights? And if it had lights and then we change the atmosphere, we can actually have a light show in the sky that can do
Okay.
images. And that's happened. We're doing that now. We have there was a huge one in Japan a couple of years ago. Right out of the water, they had this giant life-size dragon come out of the water, and thousands of people were just standing around in awe, especially those that had no clue that thing was going to be coming out of the water. So there, a lot of people think that the Wi-Fi, the low frequency, the high frequency, all of that stuff will cause us to hear, to literally start hearing voices or um, get us into something where we would all kind of fall into that ultimate plan of taking over the earth, like that would be the UN's separate agenda. It would be to get us to
Okay.
believe that an alien invasion came and they're here either on our side or they're here to destroy us and then we got to go into bunkers or how you call it, or oh, hold on one second. We have a call. Uh, hold on one second. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. You know what? I've never taken a call before, and I didn't know it was going to put you on hold.
Oh, no
So
problem.
that was my fault. Okay, the
You'll
caller
have
had
to fill me
asked.
in.
Yes, I'm sorry. The caller had asked that she wants to opt out or get the shield for her smart meter, but she lives around seven people and they all have it. If she gets
Yeah.
a shield, can that protect? Will that protect her, or does everybody have to have it?
This is the difficult part of urban living. And I have the problem even in the small town where I moved to. You can take yours out, but you're still going to be bombarded by the neighbor's smart meters. By taking yours out in that circumstance, which I did back in LA, you're simply sending the message that you don't want surveillance.
Right. Okay, we're gonna have to go. We'll see you back in a couple of minutes, and she'll finish answering that question. Hello, and welcome back to the second hour of Necessary Truth on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. I will have to mention that I did get a call, and I've never taken a call before. So it did actually mute my guest, and I guess nobody actually heard what the woman had asked me. If you would like to ask a question, you are more than welcome to go to freedomslips.com and hit the chat button. You can go there anonymously. You can leave any kind of a question, and I'll be sure I'm in the chat room right now, and I will try, and my guest will try to answer any questions you guys might have. My bad, learning experience for me. Um, so I still have Sharon here. Sharon, are you back?
Yes, I
Okay.
am.
All right.
And I
So
was just answering the question, actually.
yeah, I know. I'm sorry. The music had just started, so you can
Oh, I know.
finish because I know that that person was
I'm
she
well
was really
familiar.
interested. Yeah, she was really
Well,
interested
yeah,
in
yeah,
that answer. So
yeah. Well, okay. So we were talking about opting out of the smart meter, but your neighbors have them too. And I've had this experience. I have it right now. And what you do is when you opt out, you're doing two things. One, you're sending a message saying, I don't want the surveillance. I don't want my electric usage monitored 24/7 because they literally know what you're doing based on your energy use. So they can really tell like, oh, she just turned on the TV. Now she's going to sleep, they know. And to those who that bothers, I mean, some people say that's no problem. I don't like it. So when you opt out, they can no longer monitor what you're doing 24/7. The other thing is obviously the radiation. If you have a bank of smart meters on your building and you're the only opt out, you're still getting the radiation. So this is where orgonite comes in, which restructures the dangerous EMF and creates a more coherent energy, which doesn't harm us as much. What I've heard from people with orgonite is that they could sleep better. They put it on the smart meter or in their bedroom and they could sleep better. And the other thing you can do is literally make a Faraday cage for your bed or get an EMF canopy, which I've done too. So I actually have a combination of many things, but I highly recommend that you make orgonite or buy orgonite. At my website, I have orgonite for sale, and I also have a video that teaches you how to make your own. And the website is thekembo.com. So that's a great place to get started. If you want to make your own, it's really fun to do. It can be a little complicated, but if you follow my instructions, you shouldn't go wrong. And I sell it for as low as $10 a piece. So, that's a good start for people who are suffering from smart meters all around them.
right, I wasn't really familiar with it, and I was so happy when you told me to go to the site. I saw so many beautiful things on Etsy, and I was like, okay, this is great. I even saw ones that you had for pets. And I was like,
Yes, we
"Oh,
make them
that
for
is so
pets.
awesome." I was like,
It
"All
is
right, that's so
so
awesome."
cute on them
Yes.
too.
No, that was awesome. I was like, I'd never seen anything like that for pets. Um, but I did see them in different sizes and different shapes. I had um no familiarity with it, but I did see a very small video, and someone had a power strip, and they
Mhm.
were putting it on the power strip, and they had a meter connected to it, and they were showing it. So my question to you was, because I'm not really familiar, is if, let's say, I have it on and I'm on my laptop, would that mess with the connection between the Wi-Fi and my computer?
It shouldn't mess with the connection. And it hasn't been a problem for me when I've used it in that capacity because the EMF is still there and the signal is still there. So this is why I say orgonite's actually not a cure-all, but it helps. The signal will still be there and still transmitting. So your computer, your Wi-Fi will still work. But what will happen is the orgone energy, which is also known as scalar energy, restructures EMF. So EMF is a chaotic waveform. It's completely incompatible with our own bodies and our electrical systems because we're electrical too. And our cells in our body communicate through electromagnetic frequencies too. So when you have that Wi Fi or your cell phone bombarding you, it's disrupting communication between cells in your body. What the orgonite does is it restructures the EMF. So the scalar wave or the orgone energy will take that EMF signal and will make it more coherent. So instead of going through your body in a chaotic way, it'll go through as parallel lines. So you're going to have fewer disruptions to sleep. You're going to feel more relaxed, and you could still use your wireless devices, but you're going to feel less of the anxiety and health impact from that.
Okay. Yeah, that was kind of like my major question. Because I don't have TVs or anything like that, but I do have my laptop and I do everything on it. And there was one that I'm definitely gonna order. Actually, I want three. One for me, one for my daughters. And we all just have these because there's no TV, so we only have these separate, little laptops. And I just needed to be sure that there was some kind of a way that it wouldn't really mess with it because
Yeah, it'll still work.
okay.
The protection is so valuable. I wear a pendant everywhere I go, and I keep orgonite all over the house. It's great. So and if you can't afford it, then you can learn to make it. I have a video, but I started offering the really cheap ones, the tower busters, the ones we use out in the field. So we do orgonite gifting. We've distributed somewhere around 2,500 organites just in the environment. And the ones we distribute are cheaper. They're a little more rough looking, but they work just as well. But they're cheaper to make, so we can distribute them all over the state of California. And now we've started offering them for sale as low, well, they're $10, but you can get them even cheaper than that if you buy in bulk. So
Right.
you could contact us for bulk discounts.
Right. I did see that. I saw the Tower Busters. I saw the set of five, and I was like, "Oh, that is really, really awesome." Because I want to, be able to put them kind of outside, and maybe some
Yes.
inside.
Yeah, that's the idea is with the set of five, you would put four of them at the corners of your property and one in the house. But we offer even more than that. You just have to contact us directly, and we make them as low price as possible, as low as $5 or $6, if you want to get lots for your community.
Right. And you and I have a mutual friend who happens to be in the chat room. That's Mystic, and she put down,
Ah,
yeah, in the chat. It doesn't bother my connection, and I have an Oregon pyramid right beside my Wi-Fi, so she's making sure
that's
she
great.
threw it. Yeah, so that does help. Um, so since I'm not very familiar, could you tell me a little bit how that whole thing started? When did we find out that connection? The ones that I saw, all of them were in different shapes, but they all
Mhm.
all of them had a coil that was
Yes,
inside.
they all contain a copper coil. And the different shapes, they all work. Some people will say a pyramid directs energy better, but the tower busters are little pucks and they work great. We have neutralized thousands of cell phone towers with these, and it's amazing what you see. The best place to see the results is to go to my blog, which you can get to through my website, but my blog is thekembo.tumblr.com. And I'll record, photographically the sky changes when we do gifting projects. Like this last weekend, actually just yesterday, Gabriel and I distributed about 90 tower busters to the mountains here, all the way to the coast in Ventura County. And we saw amazing results. So if you go to my blog, you'll see that the top entry. As for how they work, each one is made out of resin. So it's a catalyzing resin contained within it is metal shavings, a crystal, and a copper coil. And quartz crystals are used in everything that we make because quartz has specific piezoelectric properties, which means that when compressed with a resin, that pressure exerted on the crystal activates its energy. The energy inside a quartz crystal and many other kinds of crystals is orgone energy or scalar energy, which some people call it. And so you're activating it with squeezing of the catalyzing resin and the metal shavings in there. We use very fine metal shavings, which will help to broadcast that out. And the copper coil also sends it out as well as repelling negative ions. So we have a negatively ionizing free energy technology. It's working constantly. So once you have an orgone device, it doesn't need to be plugged in. You don't need to do anything with it. It's just providing orgone energy 24/7.
Right. And just for those, because I had to learn it and have it kind of explained to me in the way that she just explained it. So I tried to picture it in a way of somebody who's skeptical. To me, the way that she just described the shavings, the coil, everything, to me is the same way I would describe power cord, and I just take all of the plastic off. And all that would be in it is just, different wires and, different connections. And then that's how they all work. So,
Actually, the plastic is still there. The resin is plastic. So pretty much the ingredients in an orgonite piece are the same ingredients in your cell phone.
there you go.
And we don't question how the cell phone works. We don't say, how is this transmitting? It just is. It's the same components exactly.
Right.
So the orgone energy discovered by Wilhelm Reich is something that's actually present in the environment. It's present in us, and we don't even need devices to produce it. But the reason we use these devices is because of the geoengineering, the chemtrails, because of the electromagnetic warfare on us, we are impaired and we need an energetic supplement. So I like to think of it kind of like the way we take vitamins for our physical health. We need an energetic vitamin as well in order to bring us back to where we're supposed to be.
Right. Yeah, I would think of it as a great combo. If you did meditation, you had this, and you just ate better and took better care of yourself, like the whole thing. I used to use frequencies. I have an NHC frequency chart, and it has like 2,000 ailments, and it just plays in the background. You pick your ailment, and then it has like a certain number. You put that, and it plays in the background. You hear it for a couple of seconds, and then you don't hear it at all. uh, so when I'm in that mood, I'll turn that on, and I'll have it at a nice, hum, to kind of, I'll beat the hum from outside. And I think that by getting these items, I would be able to make it a lot better and a lot easier for me to get into a better zone. Where
It helps you.
yeah, we're not just bombarded,
Yeah.
and it seriously isn't just a bombardment of um, HARP and the Gwen Towers and everything else. It's also people, and
Yes.
that's a big thing for me. That's a
Well,
huge thing.
the population is very, very mind controlled right now. And if we don't do anything about it, we all become mind controlled as well. The smart meters on our homes, that energy they're putting out, it messes you up. You can't sleep right, you can't think right. And a lot of this is done to control us in what I call it, and others call it, is a frequency fence. So we are now, as a human race, understanding energetic phenomenon. We're understanding that we are energetic, and that through increasing our own vibrations, we can achieve higher states of being, higher states of thinking. And the powers that were, they think they can keep in power, and they think that they can keep us down because they've put up frequency fences, EMF from cell towers, smart meters, and our own devices, which we invite into our homes. The Wi-Fi and the cell phones that we were just fine without 15 years ago, now we think is a necessity. It's very easy to mind control people through frequency, and the orgone energy negates all that, creates a peaceful environment in your home. But you're absolutely 100% right. You have to eat right. You have to take care of yourself. And the meditation is very important because many people think, oh, I have a piece of orgonite. All those chemtrails will be disappearing now. I'll feel fine. Everything will be great. And then they see it's not happening like they think because they've put in no effort themselves. So you have to work on your own mind as well. And that is a huge part of the chemtrail agenda and the mind control agenda, is to make us feel helpless and to make us feel fear. So the people that maybe they know about chemtrails already but don't know that there are solutions, they see those chemtrails and they're filled with fear, they're filled with anger and anxiety, and none of these things are going to help get rid of the chemtrails.
Right. And not only that, by the way, because I've mentioned the Gwen Towers. If you think that this kind of stuff is only happening from HARP, if you've seen a picture of HARP or a bird's eye view of HARP, and you've seen these large white towers, they're everywhere. So the government has said that it doesn't look aesthetically pleasing, so they look like trees. They look
Yeah,
like
fake
yeah, they
trees.
look like fake trees. I've seen tons of them here in Texas. When I was in Missouri, I didn't
They
see
need to be
any.
neutralized.
Yeah,
If I was
tons
there
of
right
them.
now, I would neutralize them. What we do is we'll place one orgonite tower buster, which is the small tactical organites. We'll put one in the ground near a tower buster or throw it in the bushes. I mean, near a cell tower, sorry.
Right.
And what it does is one tower buster alone of approximately 3 ounces will actually disable the harmful energy of a cell tower. So that's what we do, is we've traveled statewide from the border of Mexico down in El Centro, all the way up to Redding in Northern California, and all around distributing tower busters. So we'll throw some of them out in the woods, some of them out in nature, and we'll put many of them near cell towers. And the atmospheric results are amazing. We see the chemtrails just disappear because what orgone energy does is, besides restructuring the EMF and making it less harmful, so you're disrupting HARP, you're disrupting cell towers, it also throws the metal particulates out of the atmosphere. When they use, it's not that they spray chemtrails and then bombard them. They both are happening at the same time. When they're creating an unhealthy atmosphere, which is positively ionized using electromagnetic frequencies, they're creating an atmosphere where the chemtrails can stay. They could stick. These are all metals. When we undo their energy, the chemtrails no longer can persist, and they'll be thrown away from the earth. So they're not falling, but they're actually thrown up into space. So the orgonite takes care of both the heavy metals and the dangerous energy all in one. I have some pictures of what we did yesterday on my site, on my blog. I highly recommend checking it out. It was awesome.
Right.
It was awesome to watch all that stuff get thrown out of the sky.
Right. Do me a favor. Put the exact address into my Skype chat, and I'll put it into the chat room.
I will do that
To the
right
blog.
now.
Yes. Okay. I wanted to mention as well as the Gwen Towers and all of the other things. When you have Wi-Fi in your home, let's say that she's putting um these orgone towers in random places. This isn't affecting you at home. These things, that doesn't mean that now your cell service around your area is turning into crap because there's some orgone towers laying around somewhere. That's not how it actually works. The things that are the Gwen towers control a very, very, very large area, uh, more than 100 miles. And they all have a ley line kind of connection. They all disguised. They're not really supposed to be up in your face. They look like random trees, or they look like street lights. That's not what they are. You have to kind of give it a better look. I lived in Missouri. I never really saw one there. I did hear, and they were kind of in the like the palm trees. And I thought it was weird because I wrote a paper about it like 5 years ago, and I saw the exact one of all the photos. That it's right at the top of the tree. You're not supposed to, if this is supposed to be helping you, and this is supposed to be helping us, then why hide it? Are we really uh that full of ourselves? That's something that would be helping us and benefiting us. We're that concerned. They shouldn't be in hiding like that. Whatever you think you don't know. Because for everyone you do see, there's probably 50 you passed by and you didn't see those. All right, I'm
They're
gonna get
easy to miss. The Gwen towers and the cell towers look pretty much the same. And a lot of what you see is disguised as a pine tree or a palm tree. I've seen eucalyptus trees. It's kind of crazy. But a lot of them are for the phone companies. However, the amount of radiation they're putting out is way more than is needed for a cell phone. And the additional radiation is used in weather warfare. I've seen the results of overturning them. When you flip them by putting the orgone, you turn the cell tower into an orgone generator. So it completely backfires all their geoengineering, and you'll see chemtrails breaking into pieces. I have some pictures of this on my site too, on thechembo.com. You'll see chemtrails breaking into pieces. You'll see the thick layer of chem clouds start to swirl up. You'll see spirals a lot of the time because orgone energy is a spiraling shape. So you'll see all that kind of get swept out of the sky. And then you'll see sometimes after hours of this, little clouds forming, tiny little puffy clouds, as the remaining water vapor is all that's left. So all the toxins have been removed, and the remaining water vapor will clump up into little clouds. And some people fear those new skies and they think it's all geoengineering, but it's important to understand that we are actually undoing a lot of that. So when you see what you're seeing up there, and you're seeing spiral shapes and you're seeing little clumpy clouds form, and you may also notice the sky turning very deep blue and looking somewhat holographic, this isn't just them. This is also people like us fighting them.
right.
So a lot of people are scared, but there's really nothing to fear, because with orgonite and orgone energy, we can undo all that. And Wilhelm Reich discovered this back in the 50s. He already knew about weather warfare, he already saw it, and he was using orgone energy to combat the engineering of drought and also to combat cancer in human patients.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of people are I want to say just with so much information and then so much disinformation, like there has to be some point when we start realizing that a lot of the stuff that is going on is not in our best interest. And sometimes we have to go outside of what most people would consider what normal, you know what I mean? To
Yes.
fight something that we purposely were not taught. This stuff is not taught. You're not going to go to college and spend 12 years in school and then go to college and learn how this works, or all the secret programs that they've been participating in and all the damage that they've already done. This is something that we have to go outside of ourselves. Okay, hold on one second. And I have a question. Does Sharon notice the magenta pinkish clouds in the evening spreading out now 360% on the horizon? And that came from great person here in chat named Planet.
A lot of people talk about the color of the clouds. I had someone email me very alarmed. I just saw a pink chemtrail, but it was around 6 and the sun was setting. And you will see at sunset, particularly, that the chemtrails, if they're there, are going to react and have colors like that. But also, when we undo it and we create a separation of toxins, a lot of people are very alarmed at what they see. And often you'll see I think nice colors, but like oranges and pinks as this is happening. But my experience with this is that they're just reacting to the setting sun and are not necessarily a different colored chemical. Though some people think they are, I believe it's just a reaction to the sun because I think the chemicals used are the same heavy metal nanoparticles at all times of day. And like I said, when we're undoing it, it creates these clouds that some people say look like oatmeal or kind of clumpy clouds, and they will hold the sun in a different way.
Right. Yeah, I always when I lived out in the country, I would see planes, and it took me a while to start paying attention that they were not UFOs because it would usually just be the way that the sun was setting in a certain way and the direction it was flying in.
Yeah.
But it would look invisible in a sense. It would have glow, but it looked, it didn't look like a plane. So, yeah, I believe that and like I said, this does go to how we're just not taught certain things. It's not that science or the elite don't have this information or don't know how things work. They absolutely know how things work. I think we've come up with I think it's 2 new clouds that all of a sudden science has come up with. Okay, let's get your website again. Sorry, somebody's asking me for your website again. I'm just putting it in here. Um, so we had talked a little bit earlier, and I figured let's cover a little bit of it now. That would be fun. The possibility of them hiding other things besides dumbing us down, besides making us sick, and everything else. That there are a lot of people who kind of believe that they're literally just hiding something in the sky that we're just not supposed to see.
Yes. Yes, I believe that too. And I can say that I have seen and photographed many UFOs, orbs particularly. Los Angeles has got a ton of orbs all the time. And it's kind of wild. There's a group in LA that's a meetup group that will get together to go UFO watching on the weekends and photograph them. And they show up to these things and they know they're going to see them. And sure enough, they do. And I've been to these groups and it's really fun to watch. So there's definitely activity up there, whether they are our ships, because we have technology, our government has technology that's beyond what we know. Could be us, could be someone else. I don't know. But what I do know is this. Wilhelm Reich reported in his book, Contact with Space, which was his last book before he was jailed and killed by our government. He was doing his cloud busting experiments, which was to bring rain to the drought-stricken area of the Southwest Desert near Tucson, Arizona. And in his work, he discovered many UFOs, which he then contacted the U.S. Air Force about. And they sent him a questionnaire to fill out, which is published in the book, Contact with Space. They already knew the different types of craft that were out there. They had a checklist. What did you see? And you could check it off. Can you describe what it did? And I can tell you, I've seen every single one on that checklist. And Wilhelm Reich would draw pictures of what he saw, fill out the information. And what he found in the course of his work is that what we call a chemtrail sky, or just the deadly orgone radiation, not necessarily the crisscrossing, but the hazy look that it gets, he was seeing that back in the 50s in the Southwest desert. He saw it across the entire United States. It looks a little like smog. It looks a little like geoengineering. And he always saw UFOs accompanying that when he was doing his cloud busting in the desert. So there was a correlation between extraterrestrial activity and the geoengineering in the atmosphere. He turned his cloud buster, which was an orgone device used to generate rain, he would turn it on the UFOs that he saw, and he'd see their lights flickering out, and then they would retreat. So he saw a correlation between the craft and the geoengineering activity, and used his technology both to undo the geoengineering and to repel the unidentified flying objects.
Right. I mean, that could also be the reason why there are so many sightings in some places and not in others. It still fascinates me that no matter how many people actually say that they've seen something, there's a bunch of other people that are like, well, I look up all the time, I never see anything. It's like, okay.
Yeah,
I
the
get
desert
that,
is ground zero.
right.
The desert, you always hear about stuff going on in the desert.
And they don't understand
And
that
the
there's a
desert
lot light pollution. We have huge, I mean, I grew up my whole life in New York. I never really saw the sky until I went to Missouri because you can't see anything. All you see is lights. That's it. Light pollution is a huge issue on our understanding
in LA too.
in inner cities. We really don't get to see that. We barely get to see a tree. And nevertheless, that's why it's always a big thing when there is a sighting in a place as big as New York, because everybody's like, wow, we actually see something. So it becomes this whole
well, there's an amazing correlation between these craft and the geoengineering. So when Wilhelm Reich was doing his work out there, and he was seeing this connection, he realized that the desertification of the Southwest could have been created. He believed that it was unnatural. And as I work on this more myself, on returning rain in California and ending the geoengineering here, I have to agree with him that desert conditions are not natural and are the result of deadly orgone radiation, which is what's coming out of HAARP, which is what's coming out of cell towers. In California, deadly orgone radiation from the geoengineering and the EMF sources is causing a terrible drought. We have undone a lot of that and are systematically dismantling the weather warfare here. And now we're seeing tons of rain and snow again, and things are getting back to normal because of it. So he found that in the southwestern desert, which is also where you hear a lot of UFO sightings, that over eons, he estimated around 25,000 years, there was a systematic destruction of their ecosystem and a bombardment of deadly orgone radiation to where the desert was created. And that goes into another whole other realm, which is where I am right now. After years of studying this, I'm finally seeing this connection between extra-dimensional or extraterrestrial activity and the terraforming of our planet into an environment not conducive to human life, but perhaps conducive to some other kind of life.
Wow. And I find it really interesting that no matter which direction you go into concerning chemtrails, and whether it's covering up Nibiru, or it's bringing an alien invasion, or it's causing tsunamis in third world countries, if we had any inkling concerning being able to produce water, produce rain to help certain environments, if we ever got close, we don't even use it in places that need it. And I think that distresses me more than anything else. Why are there still places where there hasn't seen water? We come up with these little ways to make these fixes, but then we make it seem like crazy things instead of.
Well, there's nice people out there. There's very nice people out there who are gifting orgonite and helping in these areas, but the people who are in charge, or, well, I won't say they're in charge because that gives them way too much credit, but our government and the corporations that run it, they don't care about us. They don't want to help us. Monsanto has an agenda to control the food supply, and controlling the water supply is a great way to do that. Nestle wants to monopolize water. These companies want control over us and everything. And the fact is, they don't rule us, and they never did. We have everything we need on this earth. Primary water is something that we're never told about. There's aquifers under the earth that could give water to everyone now. There is no water shortage. When they stop rain by spraying chemtrails and positively ionizing the atmosphere and creating all this ugly pollution, they are just stopping rain. They're not stopping water. There's tons of water under the earth. And from the work we're doing, it completely undoes what they're doing anyway and brings the rain back. In California right now, again, I recommend checking out the blog for my latest photos. California is so green. I've never seen it so green. It's amazing. So this brings back to mind how this has been going on for way longer than we think. In my lifetime in California, I've never seen it looking the way it looks right now this year. After gifting thousands of organites, ourselves and others, we have returned life. What Wilhelm Reich found when he first started his cloud busting experiments in the desert is even before the rain, even before he was able to draw in rain, green grass grew everywhere all around him just from the orgone energy, just from the life energy alone. The green grass returned to the region. So we're talking about an energy that's so huge, that's so important, that can heal all of us and heal our earth and end chemtrails and neutralize EMF. No wonder our government put Wilhelm Reich in jail. No wonder he died of mysterious causes 2 weeks before he was scheduled to be released.
Wow. Yeah, you're going to have to explain a little bit more about him because somebody had mentioned, hold on, in the chat room, Don Croft.
Yes.
Was the inheritor of Reich's technology. That came from Sindalo in the chat room, and the inventor of the orgone ball or cone that Sharon is selling here. So they're at your site. They're looking around. People are talking about who has it and how it's helping them and stuff like that. So that's a really okay. She's asking for the site. Okay, so go ahead. Tell us about him. Well,
Don Croft is great. Don Croft is the father of the orgonite gifting movement, and he popularized it. He has a website too, ethericwarriors.com, which is a chat forum about orgone energy and orgone gifting, orgonite gifting. What he did was he thought of the idea of putting together, well, he didn't invent orgonite. Okay, Carl Wells invented orgonite in the mid-90s. And Don Croft took the idea because Carl Wells was making them and selling them for high prices. And Don realized they could be made very cheaply. And then we could distribute them to the environment. And so we could create these changes where people don't even know. So you don't even have to have your own orgonite because people like Don Croft have gifted the area, which is what we do too. We've gifted, especially we go to really bad neighborhoods and we put them everywhere. And we see a reduction in crime and a reduction in noise, or, that's reported to me from a friend who lived in South LA after we gifted. She didn't even know we gifted. So he came up with the idea and did a lot of that and got it out there. And now many people have taken his ideas and moved forward with it. He also is the inventor of the Chembuster, which he calls an orgonite cloudbuster, which is a device made of an orgonite base with 6 copper pipes. And it's modeled after Wilhelm Reich's cloudbuster. But the difference is Wilhelm Reich's technology was very dangerous and involved radioactive material, and you have to be trained to do it. And Don Croft's cloudbuster can be used by anyone. You could set it in your yard, and it can get rid of miles and miles, up to 75 miles of chemtrails. So this is a great device, a very huge, large-scale orgone device that he invented.
Yeah.
So we're very indebted to him.
Yes, we have someone in the chat, Keith AZ, I'm assuming that means Arizona, and he was saying he looked into building them, including the Cloudbuster type. So
yeah, and anyone can do it.
Right.
The Chembuster is much more difficult to make. The small pieces are easier, and my tutorial on my site You can find it in the organite section of my site. It just teaches you how to make the small ones, but they're much easier to start with.
Right. Yeah, I'm like I said, I know I have to get at least one for myself and two for my daughters. Um, I know that we wanted to cover some of that. Um, and at the end of the show, you're going to give everybody all the information that they need. I kind of wanted to get into as well, not just the food that we consume and the air that we're breathing and everything else, combined, but how, and the Agenda 21 that we brought up earlier, but also vaccines and how that's turning into another huge issue. Um, all of these kind of things fit together. The stuff we breathe, the
Oh,
stuff
they
we
all
drink,
do.
the stuff we eat, all of these things is what actually has us thriving. We're normally tribal people. We're all tribal. We all want to be around each other. The media tells us to frown upon it, be terrified of your neighbor, be terrified of your friend down the block,
That's what
you
they want. They want us to
yes,
fear each other.
yes, yeah, and I think that the more that we discuss things like this, that we can do as a community, we can do ourselves, we can see things, we can let each other know how it's working out. If it's not working out, how we make things better. Have you seen um, any actual correlation to people starting to come a little closer and say, you know what, we're going to start helping out. Let's start making a difference. Community efforts.
Yeah, I do see that more and more. I see people helping. I see people becoming friendlier with each other. And what I've noticed most of all is the increase of availability of organic foods. I live in the middle of nowhere and I can still get organic food really near my house. So that's definitely an improvement and more of a willingness for people to discuss these ideas with each other. But for sure, I hear what you're saying is the powers that are just clinging for dear life to their false sense of ruling over us, which they don't rule us at all. They want us to fear each other. So part of the mind control agenda does that. In fact, electromagnetic radiation causes antisocial behavior. If you've noticed, people sometimes are, they're in their cell phones and they're not paying attention to others. It's not just the imagery that's distracting them, but the radiation. But more and more people are learning that this is not the way, and people are becoming more open to talk about ideas.
Right. And to actually just talk, period. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the
Yes.
whole thing. I went out last week and I don't have a cell phone. And we're
You
all
don't?
out. No, we're all out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I do not have a cell phone. I have a regular landline. um, and it's ancient, but I love it. And I know if all the electricity went out, I could still use my landline. So I
Mhm.
don't worry about things like that. But I don't have a cell phone. If you got to call me, either you got me on Skype or you call my house. But if I'm not home, you can't reach me. That's it. So I go out, hanging out with a friend of mine, and after a couple of beers, I look up and everybody's on their phone, and I'm looking around, and I'm the only one that's noticing people walking, noticing, the waitress, noticing people ordering stuff. But most of the people that are just not enjoying their atmosphere, they're just all on the phone. You're supposed to be outside. Dance floor is empty because everybody's on their phones. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
It's a
nobody's even having
separation.
fun.
It's to keep us separate from each other, and that's what they want, but that's not what we want, and we're moving away from that day by day.
Yes.
I actually am getting rid of my phone too. I've just moved somewhere with no cell service. There's one cell tower in this entire place, and believe me, it's been busted because we don't see a cell tower and let it slide. We make sure to gift it with Orgonite. So there's one tower here. It doesn't cover my phone, and my cell phone's going bye-bye very soon.
Yeah, I just don't have a need for it. Like I have like
No
an
one
old
does.
ancient voicemail on my telephone. I mean, it's really,
Yes.
and I'm happy. I do not care. I don't have to deal with any of that. I do have a Kindle and it has like free texting. So I don't want to pay the bill. I don't want to be distracted with that thing. If I go out, I don't want to carry this bulky thing around with me everywhere I go. Just, I have no need for it whatsoever.
I hope you inspire many people to follow in your footsteps.
My daughters, believe me, my daughters are awesome. So neither one of them have phones. My daughter, she's 17. She's gonna be 18. Doesn't even have Facebook. Just
I'm
we're
glad
just
to
like
hear that.
us.
That stuff hurts. it harms the children too. It's really bad for the brain development in children.
It
When people give
does.
the kid a cell phone in the bus to occupy them, man, that's just the worst thing you can do.
It really is. And I could see
Well,
less of a
that and the
distraction.
vaccines.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I always do the religious exemption anyway, so I never have to worry about that. And my youngest has never been to school. I homeschool, so my youngest doesn't deal with any of that stuff. And I really hate it when I have conversations with parents that are like, "Oh, then she's not going to have the social skills." Every parent I know keeps telling their kids, "Why can't you be more like her?" Because she's
Well,
social,
yeah,
she's
because the
sweet,
public
she's
schools,
nice. Hmm.
yeah, well, the public schools are for indoctrination. And as a parent, you care about your child. You're going to teach her the truth and you're going to teach her what's right. And in a public school, she's going to be taught how to be a cog in the machine.
Yes, yes. We have to start
Yeah.
promoting more of a tribal experience when it comes down to that as well.
Well, one of the major things I talk about and I'm learning more about is the legal name fraud. And actually, the government doesn't rule us at all, not at all.
Right.
They cannot force anybody to take a vaccine. They can't force any parent to have their child vaccinated. And I can talk about this on another day, and I'll be talking about it too on my own show. But the legal name that we think is us isn't us. And once we register that legal name as a business entity, and you register your child's name as a business entity in which you're the name holder, there's nothing that can be done to force them to do anything. I
Right.
mean, this is a huge, huge topic for another day, but there's a very easy and quick way to just take back that control. So anytime the government is sending something to your child's name,
Hmm.
in all caps, first, middle, last, they're sending it to a registered business entity in which the parent is the name holder, and you can't vaccinate a business entity, and
Right.
a living human being can't be forced to do anything.
Right. Yeah, and it's you're definitely gonna have to come back with that, because I've been looking into the straw man for a very very long time. Um, how to eliminate your debt, how to fix your credit, how to just remove yourself from any type of contractual agreement. And it's
Absolutely.
terrifying when
I'm
you
glad you
have these
know it.
conversations. Yes, it's terrifying that when you begin to have these conversations with people and they say that it's an impossibility or you're just looking to get yourself arrested or you're stealing. I've heard
No,
that. You're
it's
stealing.
possible.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So,
if you act within the law, we live under maritime admiralty law,
yep.
and if you adhere to it rather than just saying that's not me, I'm writing this paper to the government that says I don't want to be part of it, that doesn't do anything. If you work within the confines of admiralty law and actually register that name as a business entity with any one of the 50 states, you've acted within compliance with the law, and there's nothing they can do. And in fact, the government works for you at that point. And I've gotten there. I've seen it. I've seen it in action.
And people are just, and I do understand the fear. There's a really bad stigma that's attached to that, and that's purposeful. Just like every other revolutionary group of people that have made any changes, including the ones that we so love to brag about here today, uh, and in these times that we're not really doing anything like that, all of them seemed like crazy people. All of them had their images tainted or their names dragged through the mud or something associated with them so that we look the other way. It still happens
Mhm.
today. It's not that hard to understand.
Well, what we're talking about here, and why I'm actually really glad that we went into different topics around the geoengineering, because it's all related, and many people just focus on one thing, like, oh, they're spraying us. But there's so much going on here. What we're having going on right now, it's a human revolution. And humanity has been under the thumb of an oppressive force for a long time. Can we get out of this? Absolutely. The second you want to get out, you're out. You discover your own life energy, orgone energy, and your world changes. This has been the hugest thing in my life to change the game. When you learn that we as humans can knock chemtrails out of the sky, and there's other ways besides orgonite, medicine wheels, rain dances. My site does cover some of that too with medicine wheels. We can all create orgone devices for free in our own yards. When you discover that you can knock chemtrails out of the sky, you can defeat mind controlling EMF and stop its carcinogenic effects, and you say, no to smart meters, and you say no to enslavement through the legal name fraud, all of these things come together, and you say no to the GMO food. I'm going to eat healthy organic food. I'm willing to give up the processed food. All these things come together and create a free human being. There's no reason to be subservient to an unseen tyrannical force, which is very well coming from another planet outside of ours.
Yeah. And I completely agree with that. And when people are like, you can't get yourself out of the system, you're already screwed, we never really, figure out how to take care of the real problems. That's absolutely false. There aren't just like three whistleblowers out there. Every single person who has expressed themselves or said something that is outside of the norm should have the name whistleblower attached to it, because we're seeing them and we're ignoring them. We're still using conspiracy theorists. We're still using tinfoil hat wear. We're doing all of these things, and nobody's actually saying more truth is getting out there. But my job isn't really to necessarily convince you. I'm not here to convince you. Either you get it and you have an open mind, you could take it or dismiss it. It doesn't matter. But that doesn't, and that doesn't, that actually gets people that should be talking to not talk anymore. Those type of people that are coming in and saying that's not relevant to my life, and they scream louder than the people that have something relevant to say.
We all need to find the truth for ourselves. And again, I don't try to convince people either, just like you. I'm just presenting what I know. And I don't even expect you to believe it because it does sound kind of wild. But I assure you, it all comes from my own research, reading, observation. But like I said, you got to find your own truth and don't just believe what's given to you. Everybody is a whistleblower. Everybody knows something that's going on. It's not uncommon for someone to have heard of any one of these issues we talk about.
Yeah. The information is out there. There are people that are telling their story. And I love to get people on my show that people really haven't heard that much from, because we're not all sharing this. I would hope that after today, there is another host that would hear this and say, you know what, I would love to have her on my show, so we can get that out a little bit more. We have to start having this communication amongst each other so that nobody misses out. This it shouldn't be for, a special few. We're supposed to share what we know.
Well, I'm really grateful to have an opportunity to talk about this on your show. And I think the main thing that I want people to understand is that the chemtrails are not something to fear, they're something to defeat. And we can defeat them through orgone energy, we can defeat them through our own positive attitudes and actions. Many people will say it's being done to us, and yes, it is. But to just say this is being done to us, they're doing this, they're doing that. And if they see a day without chemtrails, they say, I guess they took the day off. I assure you they didn't take the day off. The reason you're seeing a day without chemtrails is because there's someone out there working very hard to remove them, because the parasites never take a day off. So I want everyone to know that it's nothing to fear, it's something to fight, but to fight it with love and with good energy and with a positive attitude, because the second you sink into fear, they've got you where they want you.
Yep. The second you're like, nothing in the world is going to help us now, we're all doomed, that's when you're lost. There's nothing else that anybody else is going to tell you or show you or be a part with you, because nothing's going to make sense. It's all just going to seem like it's useless. I don't think that it's useless. I think that as long as we talk about it, there are people out there that seriously want to try to help. And a lot of us can't financially help. I can't just physically get up and start a revolution in another country or go feed a bunch of people in another country. I can't physically do that. But what I can do is research and then come here every Sunday and talk about it with a bunch of other people. And I do think that that makes some kind of a change. So I'm so thankful
It
that you
makes a
came on
huge
today.
change. Thank you so much. What you're doing
Yes.
makes a huge change. Just getting these ideas out there gives everyone the power to make their own decisions and to learn the truth. And etheric warfare is a bloodless revolution. We have a revolution going on right now. Humanity is ascending to higher levels, and the powers that still think they are in power are losing it every day as we gain our own we're gaining our own power, but I don't want to call it sovereignty, but that's how a lot of people think of it. But what we are doing is we are rediscovering who we are as human beings. We're rediscovering our connection to the earth and to the galactic center and rising to new levels that we never thought possible. And this goes far beyond the 3D. This is in a higher way of thinking because we're doing good for others and we're learning how we're all connected. And through helping others, we're actually helping ourselves.
I absolutely agree. We have a couple of minutes left. So please tell us where we can get in contact with you and just let us know everything because I'm definitely going to ask you to come back. So, go
Oh,
ahead.
I'd love to come back. Well, my website is thechembo.com. That's THECHEMBOW.com. And through that website, you can get to my blog, which is thechembo.tumblr.com. And you can also get to my Vimeo page and see some things we've done around LA and see my orgonite making tutorial. And also, starting this Wednesday, I am having my own radio show with Gabriel on American Freedom Radio called The Human Frequency. And we're going to talk all about this stuff from many different directions and have different guests. So we've got a lot to talk about. It's on AmericanFreedomRadio.com Wednesday nights from 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific time.
Okay.
So there's that. And there's one more thing that I would love people to know about, which is an event going on in LA from April 7th through 10th. It's the 5D event, the New Humanity Conference, and we will be there with a booth for Orgonite, and also I'll be doing a talk. So I hope to see a lot of people
Wow.
there.
That is awesome.
It's going to be really fun.
That is awesome. So where would they go to find out more about that?
All of this is on my website. So you can link
Okay.
to all this through my website, thechembo.com.
Okay. Yes, I just added it again into the chat room. Of course, Mystic has been doing that. Thank you, Mystic. I love her. She said that the organ that she has helped her with the ringing in her ears. So that's awesome.
It's so great to hear that. She told me to. And that's one of the effects of EMF is ringing in the ear. And she got an orgonite pyramid from me and it alleviated that. And I love to hear it. I've heard other reports of amazing health effects, and it's different for different people.
Right.
But I have orgonite for sale and your purchase supports our work. But if you can't afford it, I have a video that teaches you how to make it. And that's a wonderful, rewarding activity in itself.
Right. Yeah, I would like to. Well, I want to get mine from you first, but then I want me and my girls to try to make it. I think that would be awesome as a little project.
I think you guys would really enjoy that. It
Yeah,
looks really
homeschool
fun.
project. It's something for them